What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about the challenge season 36, Double Agents, episode 10, where we probably saw the worst strategic move of the season thus far and the worst Hall Brawl like ever. So my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and I don't think this hall brawl even deserves to be called a hall brawl. Like
It's a
there was
haul.
there was half a brawl, maybe a hall. It's a hall all. So it just like, my lord,
I
God in
guess
heaven,
it
what the
can't even be
hell?
called a haul all because the mud challenge was like
That was the
something.
all brawl. So a hall all hasn't been taken yet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. We'll get to it when we talk about the rest of the episode, but this was such a pitiful challenge. Like, worse than Michi not even getting to the ball throwing part against Josh.
I just feel like part of why it's so frustrating is because like it had the potential to be good, but by trying to make it more complicated, they actually made it less complicated. Because by having people have to go back and forth 3 times, it meant that they like could avoid each other if someone was faster than the other person. So like in trying to make it like a cooler challenge, they actually made it way less cool.
Which is what happened, what we saw. Like, I think they should have just kept it normal Hall Brawl. You reset each time, or you could have reset after one person scored a point because, yeah, like you're saying, once Amber B lapped Amber M, then it was just running in a hall.
Yeah, and it wasn't fun. And then, like you said, strategically, it wasn't a good move. And I just like, this was a whole mess. A whole mess.
Could have been something so awesome because hall brawls are always so fun. I love watching those physical challenges. So hopefully, maybe we'll see some more physical challenges in the future because we still have 8 episodes left to go. So there's a lot of opportunity for a redemption hall brawl or something physical like that. But we start the episode off with CT wants Josh to go in, and they're thinking, oh, maybe this week it's a men's elimination challenge, and CT wants to go against Josh. And like we said a few weeks ago with Amber M and Amber B feuding, we were like, okay, that's definitely foreshadowing. I think this is probably foreshadowing as well. It seems like the challenge likes to set up who is going to have problems or maybe go into the crater next, like we saw with the Teresa things. Like, she got some more screen time the episode before. Her and Jay pulled that move. So it seems like this is definitely going to be foreshadowing, maybe for next episode if it's a guy's day, probably since we just had 2 girls' day, or maybe 2 episodes from now for another guy's day.
Yeah, so I think part of the thing with the challenge is they'll foreshadow things, but like it doesn't immediately pay off. And sometimes they'll have multiple things foreshadowed at the same time. And you have to like try and figure out which one of them they're trying to go with that episode. And sometimes they seem to be foreshadowing stuff that just like never actually ends up happening. So
What's an
questionable.
what's an example of something that didn't happen or pay out?
Well, like I feel like Josh and Fessy yelling at each other all the time. Oh, Devin constantly like pecking at the Big Brother people hasn't like blown up in his face yet. I guess I should say yet with like the very big asterisk. It just seems like a lot of the people who are major antagonists, like Kyle as well, ends up antagonizing a lot of people, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, I hate Kyle. I don't trust Kyle," but it's like he's still in the game, so I don't know.
With that asterisk, I do feel like Devin's days are numbered, especially because it seems like when he got power this week, he sort of went on like a power trip trying to get something to happen that probably was never going to happen because honestly, he doesn't have the numbers and half of the house is like with the Big Brother Alliance. So it may have seemed a little bit far fetched for him to be like, oh, I'm the double agent this week. Like, you all have to listen to me because I have all the power. You need to vote who I want in, which didn't pay off because that wasn't what's happened. But I feel like because he was sort of like blackmailing people in a way, like telling Cam and Leroy, like, you need to vote my way this week, is sort of going to bite him in the butt because I feel like people are like, oh, why is he being so pushy? Like, just because you're the double agent doesn't mean you have all of the power.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where he knew he was being obnoxious, but he decided to do it anyway. And it's like, Devin, if you're already hated by like half the house, why are you going out of your way to be even more obnoxious? Come on, man.
Sometimes you just can't help it, you know? Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I know I shouldn't say this thing, but I just have to say it."
I have never encountered that, so I guess maybe I'm just a higher form of human than Devin is, but yeah, I think it was also hard because it's like he and his partner were at such odds, and I get frustrated when people have like a good strategic move in front of their face and then they don't take it just because of their partner. And side note to that, I feel like way too much of today's episode was spent on Lolo and Nam's relationship again. And I'm like, I just don't care about these people that much. So
Honestly, I'm like, oh, I sort of want to fast forward through whenever they're talking because it seems like their whole story arc throughout the challenge season is their relationship and how their relationship is like not working out and their partnership isn't working out. And it seems like from the first episodes that we saw of Lolo and Nam, it seems like now Lolo is thinking their partnership is like a relationship versus Nam, it seems like he thinks this is like a partnership relationship. So maybe that is like where the friction is coming in. But it's like sort of sad because I feel like the Nam Lolo partnership was something that we were all like, oh my God, this is going to be such a great partnership. Like all the people in the house are going to be scared of them because they are such a strong pair. Now to see this, and I'm like, ugh, there is so much potential here to have it ruined by like all of their bickering and all of their fighting. And like, it makes sense. No one is going to vote Lolo and Nam in because the guys realize if they voted Lolo in this week against Amber M, like Lolo will win and then she's going to switch partners and then Lolo is going to pick one of the other guys and none of the guys want to be her partner. They also don't really want to vote Nam in because Nam will probably win and then he will pick a new partner and then maybe Lolo gets stuck with one of the other guys. So they're never going in.
yeah, it's one of those things where unless they're the double agents and put themselves in, it doesn't seem like anyone wants them to go in. Because I feel like one of the things is if you don't know if it's a guy's day or a girl's day, there are some people that you can put in who you know like half of the partnership is weak. But it's like Lolo and Nam are both equally strong and equally good competitors. So there's no way that you would like take a chance on them going in. So I feel like the other thing that bothers me about their relationship is that it's the same thing for the past like 3 weeks. It has been like, we can't communicate with each other. We can't communicate with each other. And it's like, this might have worked for like 1 week, but when it's 3 weeks in a row and you have the same problem and it's just like the two of you shouting at each other, that's not like fun to watch. And I feel like the only reason they showed us more of it is because Lolo asked to get thrown in because of it.
It is the same fight over and over, and I wouldn't even say like shouting. It seems like Lolo is like being more mean in the situation and Nam is like trying to find the words to say and then like it doesn't come out right and then Lolo gets even more mad. Like when Nam is saying, oh, this is stupid, then Lolo is like, I'm not stupid, and then Nam is like, oh no, this situation is stupid, I'm not calling you stupid. And it just is sort of weird, I guess, because we always see this argument like you're saying, and we always see Lolo saying that, oh, Nam is mean, Nam won't talk to me, you didn't talk to me for like a few days or whatever, you're being stubborn, Nam. But I feel like we never really even saw clips of Nam doing those things, so I do wonder if it is like a one-sided thing or if Nam is actually like not talking to her, not being a good partner, being stubborn. But like we've only seen Lolo say those things, but we haven't seen it in the house. So like if it is a two-sided thing, I would want to see that kind of thing play out in the house to give more like background to their arguments, because it does seem just like Lolo's the one with the problem and Nam just wants to get out of the partnership too.
Yeah, like it seems like we never really hear Nam's side of the story. And part of that could be just because Nam doesn't seem like a super talkative guy. He made a comment like, if this game was in German, I would be much better at it. And I do feel for him because it's like communicating in your second language is really difficult, especially if it's something like this where like saying the right thing is really important and like being able to think on your feet is really important. And there's really not a lot of opportunities to mess up. So I feel bad for him.
Yeah, this is why, like we're saying, we need to have a solo season where Lolo is separate, no partners, won't have this drama, and Nam is also no partners, doesn't have this drama. But honestly, I feel like if Nam got a new partner in this season, he can do really well, make it to a final, and be like super awesome at a final. But if it doesn't happen, I would want to see Nam come back again, either with like a different partner or on a solo season or a team season, because I feel like we could totally see Nam shine and Lolo too. Like both of them are really strong. So it really sucks that like, why is their whole partnership so bad?
Yeah, it's like putting two good things together should make a better thing, not a really crappy thing.
So yeah, at the start of this episode as well, we see Gabby and Fessy having their like chat, and I'm like, oh barf. But Gabby says that she would choose Fessy as her partner if she went into an elimination, and Fessy likes that. He's like, oh, I'm going to mix business with pleasure, and I'm like, stop. I fast forward through this also, and I don't know, it's just like so like grimy, I feel like, to watch, because like we saw Fessy kiss Ashley in the after show. He hits on Tori and likes Tori and has all those confessionals about Tori. And now because the other two women are gone, he's like, Gabby's really pretty. And then I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm like, Gabby can do so, like, she's so pretty, you know? And it's like, stop it.
Yeah, I just feel like it's one of those things where I dislike most reality TV show relationships just because you know that it's not really built on anything real. And like showmances get so messy. So, and then with what you said about Fessy also being grimy on top of that, it was just ugh.
In the after show, also, Fessy says that he just kissed Gabby for fun and to piss off Devin, which I'm like, even more grimy. Like, if that was true, like if that is true, why do you need to say that for like thousands of people to hear? Like that sort of is a big diss towards Gabby. So like just don't say that out loud. And he said like Gabby was better kisser than Ashley, and I'm like, just stop. No one needs to hear that. Keep that to yourself.
Yeah, it's just ugh. It just makes me feel not happy. So
fast forward.
Yeah,
so
basically.
We go. Yeah, right. We go into the daily challenge. It's called Mission Black Sand Ops, and it is where you have 100 torches and you need to go dig and find your puzzle pieces. And I was like, torches. That reminds me of Survivor.
Survivor, so yeah, I had that same thought.
Really cute, right? So I thought the challenge seemed tough on paper. Hard to tell like what's been dug up versus what wasn't dug up, or what's been reburied or fake buried. So I don't know. I feel like people had the right strategy where I would personally start further, like the further torches, and then work my way in. But honestly, I feel like people were helping each other or like not helping people that they weren't aligned with. So it wasn't really like strategy, really. It was more like luck.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't like how much it was luck and not strategy. And I wish that they had like done something to make it more strategy than luck, but whatever. Yeah, it was what it was.
Even with the strategy, I feel like it like had music and it fast forward so much that we saw like some people say, oh, I don't like this person, so let's rebury their stuff, or like, oh, I like this person, come over here, this person, your stuff is here, like you can dig it up. So I don't know, but that was like the only strategy, I feel like, and that was like 1 minute out of what, an 8-10 minute challenge.
Bruh, I wish I had just fast forwarded through the challenge because there wasn't anything I feel like worthwhile to it. It's just they were running back and forth and digging. And I feel like because there was so little strategy involved, it wasn't like some challenges on like Survivor where knowing who does poorly is like important to knowing like who might do better in the game. Just like it was useless. It was pointless information, especially because it seemed like it came down to that puzzle. And it wasn't even that hard of a puzzle.
Oh my God, Alyssa, you know what grinded my gears so much was, why did the puzzle have an answer key? Like, why can't you just solve the puzzle on your own and like line up the color of the pieces that you have and the grooves and the shapes? I'm like, why do you need to have an answer key where people look, oh, there's a V shape at the bottom and then you got the face and then you have like the top. Like, you could have solved that on your own.
Did you see how long it took some of them to get it, even with an answer key? Like,
and it's like,
Devin, been there all night.
Devin and Gabby were like, what, the fourth fifth team maybe to get all of their pieces. No one was helping Devin and Gabby because no one likes them in the house. They don't want them to win that challenge versus like what Nani and Josh were the first ones back and they couldn't get it. And it's like, what, 4 or 5 people finish it. You have an answer key. How can these people that are at the back of the pack beat you in the challenge where there's an answer key? And I'm like, why is there an answer key? Can't these people figure out the puzzle on their own? It's not that difficult, I feel like, if you look at the grooves on the pieces.
Yeah, I guess, who knows? I can only assume it's because they just don't trust their players to be smart. And considering, I guess, the trivia competition that they did last week, I guess I kind of get it. Because if you don't know, like, what 14 squared is, you're not going to be able to figure out a puzzle on your own, I guess.
But I'm like, it's a 10-piece puzzle, you know? It's not even like a layered puzzle. Or I feel like in Survivor, those 3D puzzles where you have to build the fire around the base or like build the thing around the base, those look really hard because the pieces can fit in, like, look like they can fit in many places. This is literally like straight up and down pole.
And it's technically even a 9-piece puzzle because you have the dome at the top and it's like, you know which piece goes on top.
Yo, I think maybe the circle, half circle piece goes on the bottom and you balance your whole tiki torch dude on the half circle.
It was not a fun challenge to watch. And it felt like a waste of time. I feel like this entire episode just felt like a waste of time because nothing ever really got resolved except for the Amber v. Amber conflict.
Oh my gosh. That answer key, I was just so peeved. But Devin and Gabby win to everyone else's chagrin. They were like, oh, we don't want them to win, but they win. And so that's what happens a lot when you dislike one person. They always win immunity that day because you wanted to vote them out. So Gabby and Devin were lucky. And they had a huge explosion at the end of that challenge. I was like, wait, what's the purpose of that? But the Devin Gabby shot with the explosion in the back was sort of cool. They probably got like a cool Instagram photo out of it, but like, why did they need that explosion?
Who knows? Who the fuck knows?
Oh my gosh. So it was sort of weird this episode also because some people were like, oh, it is 100% a girls' day, but other people were like, oh, I think it's a men's elimination day today. And I just thought it was so odd that Josh was freaking out so much because he thought it was a guy's day. And because Devin dislikes Big Brother and Devin doesn't like Josh particularly, that Devin would throw Josh in. And he was just so like, I guess like whiny about it. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense because Josh wouldn't want to go in because he has his skull already. But then Nani also was like, oh, I don't want to go in also. And she was being nervous about it before the crater when she was like, I wanted to go into the hall brawl. I prepared for this. I'm so ready for this. Like, I felt like Nani should want to go in and she should want Devin to throw them in because you're running out of times for the girls to get their skulls.
And speaking of running out of times for girls to get their skulls, I feel like there's something to be said about the whole Gabby-Devin relationship being dysfunctional, and because they don't know whether or not it's a guys or a girls elimination, Devin basically screws Gabby over because Gabby really wants to go in and get her skull, especially because there's a possibility that Amber M will be the house vote, and I feel like everyone knows that Amber M is like a gimme, and so it's like Gabby really wants to go in, but Devin's like, nah, I don't want to go in because he already has his skull. And it's like, if Devin already has his skull, why would he risk going in again, especially if they don't know whether it's a guy's elimination or a girl's elimination? So that was kind of a recurring argument as well throughout the episode.
Yeah, I thought in terms of like Gabby wanted to go in, yes, good for her. That makes a lot of sense because like all these people didn't want to get thrown in prior weeks. So like, yes, good for Gabby. Corey, I thought also had a good attitude and he was like, okay, I don't care whether it's a guy's or a girl's day. We should get thrown in every time. And I thought for strategy now, like if you have a skull, you should not want to go into the elimination, obviously, because then you could lose your skull potentially. But if you don't have a skull, you should want to get thrown into the elimination ASAP this week, next week, because you're running out of time and you don't know how many more chances you have to get a skull. So it was still weird that people were like, oh, I want to sit out. I don't want to do this versus like other people were like, yes, 100% give it to me.
Yeah, it also didn't really seem to have rhyme or reason because, like you said, there are some people who last week were super hyped to go into the crater who this week were scared of it. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so speaking of the Gabby Devin relationship, like you were just talking about, I feel like for Devin, it does make sense to not want to get thrown in just in case it's a guy's day because Gabby and Devin in the double agent room, they learned that Amber M and Corey are the people that are going to be the house vote. So if you were Devin, you're like, oh, if it does happen to be a guy's day, like Devin probably does not want to go in against Corey. I would say Corey wins against Devin unless maybe it's a puzzle because we saw that like they can do puzzles well. So I don't know. I think it's smart in that regards that Devin doesn't want to go in, but I feel like once you see that it's a hall brawl and we know that they've already done a men's hall brawl, so it's probably going to be the women's hall brawl because they haven't yet repeated any kind of like men elimination back to back like this, or they haven't repeated a women's elimination. It's always switched men's, women's eliminations if they were repeated. So I feel like that should give you maybe like it's 95% certain that it's like a women's day today since the hall brawl already appeared. And I feel like yes, it makes sense. Devin doesn't want to go in against Corey, but I feel like it would have made sense and smarter for Devin to go in, throw himself in because you think it's a girl's day. Gabby beats Amber M, obviously, probably. And then Gabby would switch partners. Like we saw, Gabby wanted to switch to Fessy. And then Devin, because then Fessy, Anissa's partner, would probably pick Corey, even though Corey is cursed. But then Devin would be the rogue agent. And I feel like Devin being the rogue agent would have been better because he would be safe next week. And next week is probably a men's elimination. And I feel like Devin realizes that he's lower on the totem pole with Josh to get thrown in to lose your skull and for people to steal your skull. So I feel like it would have been smarter for Devin to throw himself in, become the rogue agent, and then you're safe for another week.
Yeah, but I think Devin versus Corey, if it had been a guy's elimination, because I'm not really sure that I trust them to do the whole mental gymnastics of like figuring out, oh, it's a hall brawl, so it must be a girl's day. I don't trust them to like have that deduction skill. And so I feel like Devin knows he might not win against Corey, so why do it? So I still understand why not.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a risk to throw yourself in because you're right. 5% it could be a men's day and then Devin loses the Corey and he loses his skull. So being rogue is sort of harder, but I also feel like for Devin, it's okay that he did it because I think, it is a solo game. So he's being selfish here. And if Gabby really wanted to go in, I feel like she should have stood up for herself and then maybe made the tie vote and say, TJ, I'm voting myself in, and then Devin can be like, no, I'm voting Amber M and Darrell in, and then you see what happens if Gabby really, really wanted to go in and Devin wasn't going to budge.
Yeah, I still wish that we had partners like disagreeing with each other so that we could see like what the protocol is there, just because I think it would be cool. But
so, yeah, I agree. We see Amber M wants to be the house vote now. Darrell, so funny this episode. He had some really great confessionals. He was saying that Amber M fell for Corey's trap. And I was like, oh, this is so funny just because Corey wants Amber M to lose so then he can go rogue and then he can get a new partner, which also I feel like is smart on Corey's end because if Corey and Amber somehow made it to the final together, you're probably not going to win if your female partner is not as strong as the other women in the finals. So I can see where Corey is coming from. Like, oh, let me get thrown in because I want to ditch Amber M ASAP because I don't want to run the final with her if that happens. But also I feel like similar to like Devin going rogue to be safe, Corey going rogue this late in the game when all 5 men's skulls have already been taken is a little bit risky because then like he might run out of chances to go in and get his skull because he's safe next week. So X amount of days left for the men to get their skulls. Maybe he runs out of time because he's always the rogue agent.
And I feel like also with Corey, like because he keeps losing his partner, I feel like people are going to be more and more reluctant to partner up with him in case he is like a Black Widow. So I don't know. if he becomes the rogue agent, there's a chance that he might not unbecome the rogue agent in time to get his skull. So
yeah, because once you're the rogue agent, then you can't compete in the daily and you can't get thrown into the eliminations.
I just like this whole thing seemed to just be a wash where Gabby didn't get what she wanted. Amber B was pissed off because Gabby didn't tell her beforehand that it was happening. Amber M, I feel like it's worth saying that this whole episode, Amber M was like, oh yeah, I'm prepared to go in and get my skull. And I'm like, ma'am, do you actually believe that you're going to win one of these elimination challenges? Because it seemed like she believed she was going to win, like up until the moment she actually started the challenge.
Oh my gosh, I was so annoyed when TJ was like, okay, the whatever the word is, the compromised agents are Amber M and Corey. Then he's like, Amber M, I'm so proud of you. You volunteered to come down to the elimination. And I'm like, TJ, no, don't say that because Amber M did not volunteer to come down to this elimination. Just 2 weeks ago, Amber M and Michi were saying, oh, we don't want to go in today. So I'm like, TJ, please don't say that because you are going to confuse people and people are going to think Amber M is like super strong and super great. But I feel like Amber M and Corey, and especially Amber M this week at least, like they realized that their ticket was up and like Amber M has been on the chopping block for like the entire season and always like, oh, the second person to maybe go in, or her name is always floating around. So I feel like they realized that their time was up, and then she just like to save face is like, okay guys, vote me in. I really want to get my skull today. So I was just so peeved that TJ was said, like, give her kudos for wanting to go in when 2 weeks ago she didn't want to go in.
Yeah, I just like Amber M. I hope that she doesn't come back just because she was such a weakling. I feel like she didn't really add anything to the season other than her feud with Amber B.
I 100% agree. I'm like, please don't bring back Amber M. And so in the crater, we see that Gabby doesn't want to go in. She passes it up. And so it was honestly probably the worst move of the season, even though Amber M is Gabby's friend. I feel like if Gabby truly wanted to go in and get her skull, like she was saying the entire episode until she saw that it was a hall brawl and she didn't want to get hurt, that like she could have maybe finagled the people in the house and told them to vote in someone maybe like else to go against. She's not friends with Nani, so maybe she could get the house to vote in Nani, and then she could go in against Nani in a hall brawl. But I feel like because Amber M was the house vote, Gabby hands are sort of tied, because if Gabby wanted to go in, she's going to go in and have to go in against her best friend, Amber M, which Fessy did. So since they are getting closer, maybe Gabby took a page out of Fessy's book. But because Amber M is the house vote, it really limits her options. Gabby and Devin aren't going to throw in Nani and Josh, because why would you give Nani a free gold skull? I feel like the best move would have been to vote in Big T against Amber M, because then at least the competition was a little bit closer. But also, Gabby is close with both Big T and Amber M. So then it's like, oh, you're throwing in two of your friends in against each other. Then you look sort of sketchy. Just like she didn't have a lot of options if she wasn't going to throw herself in.
Yeah, she didn't. And I honestly feel like throwing herself in would have been the best option, but she kind of shut the bed on that one, so...
And it's like, I feel like, why throw in Amber B? I guess it makes sense because you can't throw in Nani. Big T's your friend. But like, you sort of blindsided Amber B also, because she said that she didn't want to blindside Amber B. So if you thought that you weren't going to go in, or maybe you weren't going to go in, why not give Amber B the heads up? And like...
Yeah, that confused me too. Because I feel like there's a possibility where you can be like, hey, like, I might send you in if that's okay with you. And then that way you kind of have your ass covered. And now Amber B and Gabby, I feel like, are just going to get more pissy at each other. So...
Especially because Gabby is like, oh, I don't want to throw in Amber B, blindside her, because last week she saved my butt by not blindsiding me and throwing me in. So I'm like, yeah, what you're saying, Gabby could have told Amber B, like, hey, Amber B, if I'm not going into this elimination myself tonight, I'm going to put you in, and then you can go get your skull. Like, this is a thank you for not blindsiding me last week. Just like a little short, quick sentence like that. Like, if I'm not going in, you're going in, go get your skull, good luck kind of thing.
But it's all about how you spin it.
Yeah. So then like Amber B probably wins against Amber M, you know, like we saw in the episode. And then Amber B doesn't come back with the gold skull, super pissed at Gabby because you at least told her a few hours before the challenge on the bus over to the challenge. But I was just so confused. Why would Devin vote in Amber B? Because we see how much Devin hates Big Brother. And then he just gave all 4 of the Big Brother people a gold skull. Like he just helped Amber B, who is a Big Brother person, get her skull against Amber M, the smallest, like weakest girl in the house. Like Devin really wants to help out Big Brother.
Yeah, for someone who hates Big Brother, he really like gave them a huge help in this week's episode.
Yeah, it would have, like, if he doesn't want Nany to get it because Nany is associated with Josh, who he dislikes, I feel like throwing in Big T and CT against CT, or Big T versus Amber M would have been a good duel if Gabby wasn't going to go in herself. So we get to the hall brawl. Like we said at the beginning of this podcast, it's a fake hall brawl. This is not what a hall brawl should be, which is so sad because I always like to see these physical challenges, and Amber B like completely dominates Amber M. There was only that one impact, and then Amber B laps Amber M, and then there's not really any hard impacts or fighting after that. It was just so funny, and the last ball that Amber B pushes Amber M down.
Yeah, I just like, it would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. So.
Such a hot mess. It's so pitiful watching. I was like, oh, expecting such great things, and then it was just so sad to watch.
It was so sad to watch. So.
And yeah, I think what CT said during the challenge, like people kept Amber M around literally just for an easy skull, which I'm like, okay, that is true. And I feel like when Tori was saying, oh, I want to go in against Amber M, now it's like, okay, Amber M proves herself and she totally failed at the hall brawl.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of vindication for everyone who was like, oh, Amber M's whatever they were calling her, a weakling. They had a special word for it. But anyways, like, I feel like Amber M should be really disappointed in herself because she basically proved everyone right. But
oh my gosh, yeah, the challenge was just so pitiful, and
I'm glad it's over. I'm glad that we don't have to have the possibility of Amber M winning a challenge hanging over us anymore.
Yeah, so it can only go uphill from here, hopefully. Amber B wins, and she picks to stay with Darrell. So Corey has lost another one of his partners, and now
another one bites the dust.
Corey is the rogue agent.
Yeah. So next week, I feel like we're going to see some fallout from the Gabby Amber B situation. I pray to God we finally get Lolo and Nam somehow breaking up, and then who knows what else will happen.
Yeah, I feel like with the CT Josh foreshadowing, Devin was all on board to get Josh thrown into the elimination, which sort of I feel like with Devin's thinking this episode, he needs to not throw in Josh for how much he hates Josh. I sort of feel like Josh and Devin need to pair up because they are lower on the totem pole for people that want to steal skulls from them. So I could see Devin wants Josh to go in because he dislikes Josh. But I feel like once Josh goes home, Devin is probably the next person on the list that people want to steal their skull from. And so Devin, low-key, should be protecting Josh and be like, no, Josh is not going in, because if Josh goes, Devin is the next to go home probably, because we've got the big dogs coming in with Darrell, CT, Corey, Nam. All of these strong men are going to steal their skull. So the weaker men need to stick together.
Either that, or you put in an opponent who has a politically worse situation than Devin, which honestly might not be possible.
No one.
Yeah, like, the reason I stopped mid-sentence is because I was like, oh, I'm about to say something that's totally dumb, because Devin is like the bottom of the barrel. But I feel like it might be one of those things where maybe Josh loses, Devin finds a way to become the rogue agent and then coasts that way. But
Yeah, I guess if it goes to like two men's back-to-back eliminations, since we just had two women's eliminations, then he could be in a little bit of trouble. But also, I feel like for Devin, he's so stuck on the point of, oh, I hate Big Brother, I hate Josh, that like he wants to throw in Josh. But like, why not throw in the strong men like Leroy and Fessy in against CT, Darrell, Corey? Because then you get one of the strong guys out. I feel like the women this season were trying to throw in two strong women against each other, like we saw with like Ashley and Cam, Ashley and Natalie, Teresa and Casey. Get one of the strong competitors out. So for you as a female or a male, it's easier for you in the finals because then it's like less competition within your same gender. But like, I don't know, it just seems so backward that like as Devin, and he considers himself a layup, and he says that in a confessional that like, why don't you throw in two strong guys in against each other? Why throw Josh in? That makes no sense because the person will probably beat Josh.
That's the word I was thinking about to describe Amber M, a layup. But yeah, I don't know why the guys and the girls have such different strategies, and it might just be down to what they think the final is going to look like. Because it's like maybe the girls aren't thinking about the fact that like, oh, there's going to be a partnership, there might be a partner final. So who knows?
Yeah, I guess if you like Casey Fessy, they would want to save each other because like they are both strong and they can do well, and they were both in the final last season. Like that makes sense to save one another, but it is, I guess, yeah, I don't know. Cam wouldn't want Leroy to go in, so he's safe. So basically, the two strongest guys who have skulls are pretty much safe, and so they're probably not going to get thrown in to get their skulls taken. So it is like the social game that, like, okay, Devin and Josh is probably on the outskirts of the Big Brother alliance because he's not as strong as Fessy and Casey in that BB alliance. So he's probably one of the first to go, and the Big Brother people will sort of have to let him go in because they won't have the numbers maybe next week. But yeah, I don't know. It is weird, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see what happens next week. I'm personally really excited to hopefully see some things that aren't just boring. Hopefully, their challenge is less boring. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Please let us know in the comments down below. Do you think Lolo and Nam should break up? Are you glad that Amber M is finally gone? Do you have any other comments that you think we should know about? Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week.